It is exactly 1:01 p.m. on Thursday, March 11, 2021, and I call this meeting to order. Today, we are here to convene the Charter School Application Review Application Review Committee for the Capacity Review as per School Board Policy 9800. Matter Academy of West Vero submitted a charter school application on February 1st of this year, with the projected school opening of August 2022 in the Point West area. My name is Pamela Dampier, and I'm the Assistant Superintendent of Strategic Planning and Support Services. In the room today, we have present members of the Application Review Committee, and our guest, Matter Academy, is on Teams. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Today's meeting is being live streamed through the district YouTube channel and will be available there after the meeting is complete. Before we begin, a few housekeeping ensures For those of you who are in the room, please make sure that your microphone is on and pull close to you when speaking to ensure that your voice is picked up by the recording. If you are on Teams, please keep your microphone muted unless you are specifically responding to a question. When you unmute your microphone to speak on Teams, please state your name first for the audio. The capacity interview should last no longer than 2 hours, so we will stop at 3 p.m. Today's agenda is as follows. We'll have introductions, Matter Academy, our guests, as well as our committee. The application overview, Matter Academy will get the opportunity to share information about the school and the application. Then we'll have a question and answer period. Members of the Charter School Application Review Committee will have the opportunity to ask any clarifying questions from their review of the application. Now we will have introductions. I've already introduced myself, so I will start with our guest, Matter Academy, and then go around the room. Please share your name, organization, title. So we'll start with Matter Academy. Hello?
Miss Marty, you were muted.
You're muted.
Can you please state your name, title, and organization? Matter Academy.
Hi, we're waiting for Miss Judy Marty to unmute herself, but my name is Idalia Suarez, and I am the governing board member for Matter Academy.
And I am Judy Marty. I'm the Chief Academic Officer for Matter Academy, and very much in charge of the questions. I would be receiving the questions and then referring to the other members of our team. I could now, do you want each of the members to introduce themselves?
Yes, that would be great.
Okay. So we got Dalia Shani Tedeschi. It's a board member and semester with helps with the application of academic Alina Chester on budget, Richard Moreno, who's our consultant for budgets. And of course, Betty Riera, who's the principal of the school that is being replicated, and her staff that helped write the application. Liliana Salazar is the person in charge of all the student ESC, any kind of student disability program. And we had 3 people from the replication school. I see Casal, I see Matt Prada. I'm not sure if I see the others. If I miss somebody, Betty, can you please chime in with the other names?
Yes, you have myself, Betty Viera, principal for Matter Academy East. You have Joseph Casal, Jasmine Peters, and you also have Maggie Estrada.
Okay, I think that's it for us.
Does that include your introductions on behalf of Matter Academy?
Yes.
Thank you so much. Now we will have the team that introduce themselves, and we'll start with Mrs. Julie Cashin-Smith. You can say your name, title, and organization.
Hi, I'm Julie Cassin-Smith, Program Specialist for School District.
Brenda? Ms. Davis?
Hello, I'm Brenda Davis, Administrative Assistant in the Superintendent's Department.
Hello, Daphne Matthews, Interim ESE Director, Indian River Schools.
Dr. Brian McMahon, I'm the Coordinator of Accountability and Research for the School District of Indian River County.
Karen Mallitz, Director of Federal Programs, School District of Indian River County.
Richard Meyer, Assistant Superintendent, Curriculum Instruction.
Heather Holden, Coordinator of Assessment and Virtual Instruction, School District of Indian River County.
Kate Hollis, Legal Counsel for School District of Indian River County.
Scott Bass, Deputy Superintendent, School District of Indian River County.
John Teskey, Director of Security and Emergency Operations.
Jennifer Idlett, Transportation Director, School District, Indian River County.
Tracy Simonton, Food and Nutrition Services Director, School District of Indian River County.
Robert Michael, Physical Plant Director, School District of Indian River County.
Nick Westenberger, Director of Facilities Planning and Construction, School District.
Ron Fagan, Chief Financial Officer for the district.
Kim Coatman, Director of Finance, School District.
And the best for last, Greg McDonald, Director of Technology Services.
Well, thank you, Greg. Kelly Basor, the Director of Academic Success.
Edwina Suit, Dr. Edwina Suit, Director of Human Resources, School District of Indian River County.
Thank you, everyone. At this time, I will turn it over to Matter Academy, and we're asking that you provide a brief overview of the application, and you have 10 minutes to provide that overview.
Okay, thank you. At this, by the way, just so that we have also William Tago, who is our Director of Security. Yeah. And right now, we would like to, my microphone, I don't know if you hear me well. Matter Academy is a tuition-free charter school system that serves grades K to 12 with the opportunity of dual enrollment. It's a nonprofit charter management organization. We have a very good track record. We're very excited to be presenting to Indian River. I think, okay, I'm gonna have to, somebody else gonna have to take over because nobody can hear me. Idalia, can you?
Of course, I'll be honored. Can the committee hear clearly?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. So my name is Idalia Suarez, and I am a governing board member for Matter Academy. Our organization is a not-for-profit charter management organization over 2 decades, and I'm honored that I was in the first Matter that opened in '98 as a teacher assistant, and I'm able to come back and serve as a governing board in this wonderful organization. Matter Schools has proven a track record of preparing students for college while narrowing the achievement gap for economically disadvantaged students. We say we are a kindergarten to college prep program. If you can go to the next slide. And then I believe this is a little video, because nothing like hearing from a student.
Viable educational choice by offering an innovative, rigorous, and seamless, technologically rich college preparatory curriculum that matters to a competitive advantage while creating confident, self-directed, responsible learners. To provide.
And then now for our mission, this is a very handsome kindergartner.
Matter Academy provides a safe learning environment. Academics are facilitated by
teachers, administrators, parents, community, enabling students to become self-directed
relevant relationships.
I hope you were able to really see that, but it ranged from kindergarten from one of our Matter schools all the way to our secondary schools, and it was students from various campuses. Matter does serve nearly 18,000 students. 82% of them qualify for free and reduced lunch, while 97% of our students are minorities, reflective of the community that we serve. Next slide, please. Frankie, can you move it to the next slide?
This gave you a little bit of an idea of what matters.
Frankie, you skipped a slide. Can you move it back one, please?
I think my computer's frozen because I no longer have the slide. Why don't you take over, Ms. Marty?
Yeah, I'm trying to. Frankie, can you put the slide before with the movie? Let's play this.
For over 20 years, Matter Academy charter schools have been preparing students to excel from kindergarten to college. Through rigor, relevance, and relationships, Matter Academy schools treat each student as an individual. Matter Academy is a high-performing charter school system with a 98% graduation rate. Over $20 million a year are awarded in student scholarships, and more than 25% of graduates receive an Associate of Arts degree. Learn more at matteracademy.com.
Okay, I give you a little bit of an idea. I'm very proud to talk about the financial stability of the Matter schools because it's shown in all the successful annual audits at the corporate and at the school level. Our operations were rated by Standard & Poor's in August of 2020 because we received grants to purchase some of our existing schools that have been rented, and we have the achievement, the grade rating of BBB. Very few networks have achieved this high rating, and our bonds were sold within 2 days of being offered. We have growing enrollment level combined with very good student retention. It's a very large scale operation on a charter school with already $150 million in operating revenue. And it's the prediction of growth and the very favorable academic results as demonstrated with the fact that we are a highly effective charter network. The Matter Academy is very important, and one of the reasons we are starting to open school in Indian River with the receiving of the Charter Management Organization for Replication of Expansion of High Quality Charter Schools. Through this grant, we're going to be able to support the opening of 38 new schools throughout Florida and also are also moving into other states. Next. Matter Campus, we are very pleased to have very, very safe learning environment. We are nurturing, we live in the social emotional learning of our students. We have highly qualified teachers. We have very professional leaders, and our focus is on the high achievement and targeted with individualized instruction. I never felt so confident about the replication that I do about Matter East Elementary, so that's one of our traits. Next slide. With that Matter support throughout the network, we work on constant collaboration. Teachers collaborate with mentors. We have a Matter coalition of principals that meets on a weekly basis. We discuss data. We try to improve, help each other to achieve the excellence that we prepare them for. And it's a lot of competition, it's a lot of dialogue. The expectation is academic excellence. Our culture, student-centered. We totally promote a student-centered culture. The student is the focal point of the instruction. And their voice is central to their learning experience. Next slide. Now, I would like for Betty to talk a little bit about the replication and what her school is. Betty Riera, please.
Hello, and hope everyone can hear me. Once again, Betty Riera, principal for Matter Academy East. Matter Academy East has opened its doors in 1999. I am the founding principal at Matter Academy East. Matter Academy East has had quite an extensive record in terms of accolades, from being a two-time Blue Ribbon recipient to receiving, being a high-performing school for over 15 years plus. We are actually a STEM accredited school, as well as can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. As well as accredited by the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools, currently known as COGNIA. Again, it has been in operation for over 20 years. When we opened our doors, we opened up with approximately 75 to 100 students. We are now at 600 plus students over the course of 20 years. Anything else that you'd like for me to add, Judy, to that, or?
No, let's go to the next slide, please. Because I want you to brag about your recognitions.
Okay, absolutely. So as I said before, definitely a two-time Blue Ribbon recipient, first in 2010 for exemplary achievement gap closing, in 2019 for high-performing school. We are a three consecutive award winner of the Superintendent of Miami-Dade County Public Schools Platinum Award. We are a two-time Title I Distinguished Schools Award winner. And again, as I said before, we are a STEM accredited school, certified by COGNIA in 2020, and of course accredited by COGNIA as far as accreditation is concerned, which formerly known as the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools. So very proud of our track record at Matter Academy East.
Next slide, please. Okay, we also are, I think we're special in the way we've been using technology and digital instruction. We had always been a technologically rich group of schools, and part of it is because 17 of our schools are part of the Verizon Digital Promise program. But in addition to that, I think we were very prepared when we moved into the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic. We were able to open up with synchronized learning through our Classroom of the Future. We have a specific through a collegiate network, and I cannot say it the way you're gonna see it, so I would like you for you to see a view into the Classroom of the Future.
Everyone, look back and say good morning to our friends that are on remote live instruction with us.
I'm going to be sharing the screen for right now. You can just follow.
How would I get to 18? Can you show us, Victoria?
Very good. Okay, class, take out your QR code scanners.
Yes, Michael, you have a question?
How did you get to the vocabulary? What did you learn from the vocabulary?
Welcome to the Classroom of the Future.
Okay, and as you say, not only Matter East have Blue Ribbon School, we have other schools with Blue Ribbon schools. We also have many schools where many of our Title I schools have achieved a lot of merit to that. And on the next one, you would see all kinds of honors that our schools have received. And that we don't even have enough space. And I'm very, very proud to be here representing Matter Academy. And that's the end of our presentation.
Thank you. Now the Application Review Committee will ask questions for various sections. We will begin with Section 1 and continue in order through Section 12. We will start with Section 1, Replication Overview, which we have Mrs. Holden and Dr. McMahon in that first section.
Can you please explain, is this application specific to Indian River County School District? And if not, how many other of your charter schools used this school as your replication and why? Your Miami East school as a replication?
We follow the law, and when we are replicating one of our schools, we know that if it's another one that have not received an A yet, we cannot use it for replication. So at this point, this is we're only replicating Matter East Elementary in Indian River. This is the only replication at this time.
Your model school has a minority population of 98% and 81% on free and reduced lunch. Indian River has approximately 46% minority and 60% free and reduced lunch. Can you explain why you chose this specific school to replicate in Indian River County?
Matter Academy is a very successful group of schools. And we choose this school because this school, if you go in there and you're more than welcome to visit, you would not realize that those students are that high in free and reduced lunch. The school is a model that has been visited not only by other charter schools, but also by district schools because of the way that it excels. If it works there, it will work everywhere because it's a phenomenal program that can be replicated and it's good for all schools.
We lost you right at the very end. We lost you right at the very end. Can you repeat your last sentence, please?
I said that the school has a system that is good for all students, not only Title I students, not only students that are on free and reduced lunch. It's a very good system of education and has been recognized as such.
Thank you.
Your application states that Matter Academy will engage in the same student data-driven continuous improvement methodology that is utilized at all Matter schools. Please explain this methodology in detail.
Okay, we use not only data from all the state exams, but we also rely very heavily on iReady, and we have a system. We do data chats among administrators, with the teachers, and with students, and with parents. And we review on an independent basis whatever students need. And it's a constant continuous improvement model because at one point we may be concentrating in some areas. And when we have the students, we have to do targeted tutoring. That's what we do. We don't teach all the students in tutoring the same. We go specifically on what our data tell us, and we use constant testing, not constant, but we do the testing that is not only done by the teachers, but we use systems that we could recreate throughout our network.
Okay, moving on to section 2, mission, guiding principles, and purpose. We have Dr. McMahon and Mr. Fagan.
How will you measure college readiness at the elementary level?
By the amount of students that successfully complete the 5th grade, getting 4s and 5 and 3 4s and 5 in their ending, but also it's more of a subjective thing for college readiness. When we start calling the class, instead of kindergarten class, the class of 2033 or 2022, we talk to students about college from kindergarten on. We got college days that students kind of bring different shirts representing different colleges. We put it on our bulletin board. You could see any of our elementary schools and you see the Matter culture all the way, and it's a college going curriculum. We even have visit to college as early as 5th grade, and of course, then we emphasize it more in our middle and our high schools. And we are preparing our fifth grade, actually our elementary students, but when they enter the middle schools, then we have accelerated programs where we will be giving the middle schoolers high school credits to prepare them to our courses. And we have to brag about high schools because we have a 98% graduation rate. And in addition to that, we also graduate large percentage of the students with Associate of Art degree through our advanced placement and dual enrollment program. And by the way, we do that in schools with 90 and 95% free and reduced lunch.
Can you please articulate what is specifically meant by dynamic learning environment in your vision statement?
I'm sorry, I could not hear.
Can you please articulate what is specifically meant by dynamic learning environment in your vision?
Okay, what we mean by dynamic is that we change with the times. We do not go, and we always done it that way. It depends on the needs of each particular school. We're always introducing new programs. Of course, we stay within the state guideline and we follow the state standards, but we do it in innovative manner. And I think you saw an example with the way that we moved through the pandemic by using all kinds of, it'd be phenomenal if you could go into one of our classes and I could see students doing group, that 2 students are at home and 3 students are sitting in class and they're having discussions and responding to those discussions. It has to be dynamic because if it's stagnant, it's not going to work.
All right, next question is, can you provide any specific examples of best practices developed by Matter that will be replicated?
I think I could say that, and I think Betty will help me on this, but at the elementary level, we are introducing the reading through all the content areas. We also have a phenomenal after school that I think Betty described a little bit, but in some of our schools, we have extended period of training, and we are doing a lot of, in many cases, we pick the best teacher, and at one point, she may be, if we got an excellent teacher for science in 5th grade, that teacher will be scheduled to teach the students in different time and offer the best practice. We have very, very involved professional learning communities in all of our schools. We have vertical planning and horizontal planning, not only within each school, but within the network. We have a couple of times a year that we do professional development for all Matter schools at the same time before school starts, where we select some of our best practices and they are shared with other members of the Matter community.
Follow-up question, you stated that you conduct professional development at the same time for all Matter schools?
Yeah, we do
correct?
that before school starts.
But all at the same time or all prior to the start of school?
Okay, prior to the start of school,
Okay.
we pick 2 days in which in 2020, we had to do it by Zoom. And it was extremely successful, but in the past, we have picked and one of the bigger schools, and we will have sessions that we will have general sessions with very well-known people from the United States, but then we will have sessions for instance, reading K-2, reading 3-5, 6-8. We would have sessions on advanced placement, and we pick our top teachers to teach others. And we also bring well-known members of the community for things like social and emotional learning and whatever is necessary.
Thank you.
And all of our teachers participate.
Even the schools that are not within the county of where the conference takes place participate. They were, it was funded by the school, and it was like a conference for the teachers. So it was a system-wide professional development.
Thank you.
Our next section is Section 3, Education Program, Curriculum, and Instructional Design. We have Mrs. Besura, Dr. Matthews, and Dr. McMahon in this section.
Good afternoon. My question is really around intensive interventions and ELL students to start with, and it's a two-part question. Will students who have a substantial deficiency in reading be taught by a teacher who is certified or endorsed in reading as required by state statute? And similarly, will teachers who teach ELL students be certified or endorsed in ESOL?
All of our teachers that are teaching ELL students are ESOL certified or endorsed.
And what about the requirement for the reading endorsement or certification?
It's the same thing, and we've been actually, all of our schools have been very active in assisting our teachers to acquire the registration or the courses so that they can get reading endorsed. So it would be the same in the Indian River Matter Academy.
Oh, just to clarify, so teachers who will be teaching students with a substantial deficiency in reading will have their reading endorsement or certification, correct?
Absolutely.
Yes, non-negotiable.
Thank you.
Okay. How will you provide a continuum of services to support students with disabilities in the least restrictive environment?
Okay, I'm going to defer to Liliana for this question because she had the largest amount of experience, and we also have Maggie Estrada here, who is the one that provides the service. She's the ESC Specialist for the school that we're replicating. So if Liliana and Maggie Lily, would you please? You're muted. Lily, you're muted. You have to unmute yourself.
Okay.
We're not familiar with Teams. We always use other networks, Zoom.
Yeah.
So you
I
guys.
apologize. My computer was not cooperating with me. Maggie, do you want to go ahead and explain how you, since you're at the school site and this is the school that's being replicated, do you want to go ahead and explain how when you're at initial IEP meeting, how you look at the continuum of services during your staffings, and then also when you're looking at annual IEP meetings, what you're looking at when you consider the continuum, and then I'll go ahead and add on?
Absolutely. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Good afternoon. I'm Maggie Estrada. I'm the ESC Specialist for Matter Academy East. Been with Matter Academies for many, many years, over a decade, I believe. And basically, when we have a student with an IEP, if that is the question, we obviously, at the time of the staffing, we observe all the data, aside from the psychoeducational evaluation, all the RTI data that's been collected. And then from there, we determine the individual needs of the child. We obviously have to consider the least restrictive environment at all times, where we currently at Matter Academy East have a large amount of students who have not only consultation, but also support facilitation in the areas of reading, of writing, and math. We continue observing through consultation, aside from any other additional services that they may need, such as speech, language, OT, PT, counseling, or any other additional services that they may need. The IEPs are monitored every 9 weeks, as well as their behavior intervention plans, just to make sure that the child is on the right track and that the goals that we've set for that child make sense. We do this not only by teacher interviews, data, chats, grades. These are all different ways in which we monitor the progress of those individual goals for each child.
Thank you, Maggie. And in addition, we always start with the least restrictive environment as the base, right? And what we do is we write the entire IEP, correct? And we write based on the needs of the student. And that is the very last decision that we make, because we want to make sure that we create a solid document, really capturing the present levels of performances, the strengths, the needs, any type of accommodations, assistive technology, for example, that might be required, any type of related services. And then from there, once you get a real good idea, then that's when the team can have a really meaningful decision as to where in the continuum of placements the child can access his education, because that's what we're looking for. We're looking for him to be able to fully access his free and appropriate public education based on the IDEA law.
Of course.
Thank you.
Okay, so my next question is around the new best standards. The plan references Florida standards and in some cases, next generation standards. Is there a plan for transition to the new best standards? And if so, what does that plan look like?
Absolutely. We will totally follow what the state does. And eventually, I think that by next year, we will be doing K1 and 2. We will totally follow the best standards. We will purchase the material as required by the best standards, and prepare our students for the tests that will come related to that.
Thank you.
Throughout the entire section 3, nothing addresses culturally responsive instructional practices, curriculum, or educational programming. Considering the school district, which charters are included, are under a federal desegregation order implemented through the 2018 Joint Plan, which includes our own African American Achievement Plan, how do you plan on addressing equity at Matter Academy?
Okay. I heard about the desegregation, but I missed part of your question about how we're gonna do what. I know equity because that's what we practice, that's what we do in all of our schools. We are in a highly, we have schools in highly integrated communities where we are dealing with all races and all of our students will succeed. I don't anticipate any problem. We will try to get the school will be a reflection of the community. We are going to provide busing for students the same way you do. We would follow your plan to make sure that we will, in our schools, we would follow, and if there are specific classes, whatever your school progression, student progression plan, we would be following.
I have a follow-up question regarding that. But how specifically, what plan do you have to ensure that you're following the desegregation order that all schools, including charters, are required to follow? So that's not utilizing our plan. It is what is your plan?
Okay. Are you referring, for instance, to the situation with the buses, providing buses to make sure that students have access to the school? Extend the busing from 4 miles to the 6 miles, having the special programs for maybe students that are from migrant workers, because we got a lot of experience with that in some of our other schools. We kind of, like what we say before, we would do everything for all students from kindergarten on.
Including utilizing the cultural responsive teaching, which is a research-based approach that makes meaningful connections between students. We would provide professional development. We would train our teachers so that we can incorporate this in the curriculum and develop the culture of the school.
Yeah, no, because as we said before, we really created a student-centered culture, and depending on what the students are, who they are, we would make sure that they have the best learning environment so that they could achieve to the top of their abilities.
Can I ask a follow-up with that? The specifics of the African American Achievement Plan, have you guys read through that? And how do you plan on implementing the myriad of requirements to plan, to monitor, to problem solve around all of the areas within that African American Achievement Plan?
Our African American students, we are, some of them require extra, some of them are our gifted classes. We treat students based on their needs, who they are, and how they perform. And that's why we have those systems of before school, after school, push in, pull out. We are going to do targeted tutoring based on the needs of each child. And of course, African American students are part of who we are.
Did you answer the question in reference to, are you familiar with the African American Achievement Plan?
I do know that when we look at our diverse population, we got the subgroups, and we prepare plans for each of our subgroups as part of our school improvement plan. African American is one of the subgroups that we definitely have a plan for, depending on where they are at each school.
I might be able to clarify, in the actual school district, the school board of Indian River County has passed an African American Achievement Plan that has a myriad of requirements, monitoring aspects to look at, problem solving, and all schools are bound to apply those for lack of a better word, standards that are in that plan. And that's what we're asking for, is have you looked through that and how do you plan on implementing that within Matter Academy here?
So
we definitely would prepare our principal. We're going to have the facility to hire our principal 10 months before the school opens through our grant. And part of what that person is going to do is we're going to be hiring the people. And at that point, they would also receive the professional development necessary to implement the plan exactly as the district wrote it.
In addition, I think, you can count on us making sure that we go to, historically Black, we want our students and we want to go to historically Black colleges, reach out there. The goal is to close the achievement gap, and you can see that Matter has a track record for closing that achievement gap among high minority and low socioeconomic, status students. And so that would absolutely be a part of our plan. We would also want to make sure that we have teachers reflective of those students within the school to make sure that, our students are feeling connected, recognized, and, culturally celebrated.
And our schools do incorporate project-based learning, which develops the soft skills. And that's where the problem solving and the communication and the collaboration comes in place. So that's where the students are going to have the opportunity to practice and to implement these very important skills that will transfer not only in their academics, but in their future endeavors. And of course, as a system, we're already starting this, but we will ensure that this particular subgroup and all of our subgroups, we're monitoring their data. We're monitoring their progress, not just in academics, but with the soft skills, which is what is going to really make them a successful student and human being overall.
Specifically tracking those students as well through, one of the things we talked about earlier was how we close the achievement gap. And we have a very specific program of making sure that we target those students, that we make sure that we're constantly monitoring them, that they have individual improvement plans, and that we do whatever it takes to make sure that that improvement is happening, whether it be additional tutoring, double dosing, one-on-one support if necessary, to make sure that we do close that gap.
Something really important that I want to add to is that all of our schools and all of our principals will be trained on culturally, besides the fact that they're going to have the culturally responsive training, they're also going to be trained on restorative practices. And that is going to go very well with when we're looking at behavior, when we're looking at the MPSS process, and we're looking at tiers 1 and tiers 2. That restorative practices is such a beautiful strategy and philosophy to use in tier 1. And it is something certainly that the Matter of teachers will be trained in to be able to implement.
Okay, the next question is around required instruction. So when reviewing the plan, I did not find any information in it on how required instruction will be taught as defined by Florida Statute 1003.42. Is this addressed in the plan and I just didn't see it? And if so, can you describe how you meet that state statute?
Can you repeat that question, please?
Yes, the question was regarding required instruction as defined by Florida Statute 1003.42. How does Matter Academy meet that state requirement for required instruction?
Required? Okay. The status refers to required instruction on what subject?
Are you meaning like the required minutes and the requirements for instruction?
No, ma'am. I'm specifically referencing Florida Statute 1003.42.
And the section refers to a specific instruction or minutes, or is it on
Judy, I believe that you're referencing the required courses that we would take in the student progression plan. Is that correct?
No, ma'am. I'm referencing things like that are required instruction around some just general topics that are outlined in the statute are the history of the Holocaust, kindness to animals, the history of the state.
Of course we follow that completely. I'm sorry that I wasn't familiar with the number of the statutes, but we follow all the initiative, all the requirements as the state and the county mandates.
Can you describe what that plan looks like? Like how you meet that requirement currently with your curriculum and your instructional practices?
Many of the cases we are implementing many of those through our social studies classes, because the majority of them would fall into that. But we have, we do readings through the content area, so we would also implement it to our regular language art by getting articles on the topic and having vivid discussions with the students.
So for an example, our school district provides a calendar, a scope and sequence for the entire year where they provide resources, materials, reading materials, instruction, and we utilize that. If your school district provides a calendar similar to that, Matter Academy would follow that. If not, they would follow the one that the Matter Academy schools that is being replicated utilizes. And that's why we have Ms. Riera that's going to be the mentor principal and working with the principal of this particular Matter charter school that we're trying to open. And they would provide the scope and sequence so that they can follow the guide, the resources, and the implementation of these lessons across all grade levels.
At every one of our schools in the month of October, we have phenomenal presentations, we have classes, we have developed a specific for each grade level on how to participate. We very much have taken students to the Holocaust Museum during that time. We have brought Holocaust survivors to the school. We have African Americans that are successful coming to the school. We got poetry by African Americans. We celebrate Hispanic Heritage Week in the month of October, but we definitely will follow whatever district we're in, the specific plans. We guarantee you that we'll do at a minimum whatever you're doing, and in some cases expand by using our own Matter material for that matter, for those particular topics.
And we try to bring experiences for our students. So we'll have, large events to celebrate the examples, the exemplar historians that have made an impact in the community. There's so much that can be done and integrated across all curricular, but there's definitely a guide that we utilize. And if it's not provided by the school district, we have one, and we celebrate and we meet all these milestones throughout the school year.
In addition, one of the things that we do prior to the start of the school year, is our administrator and our team will create a calendar for the year of all the different types of events and activities and curriculum we want to cover within all those realms and topics. We make sure that we're doing education on, racism, prejudice, diversity, and we're already doing those things in our school now, and especially involved in that are our school counselors to make sure that that happens.
Thank you.
Section 4, Student Performance Assessment and Evaluation. We have Ms. Besur, Dr. McMahon, and Dr. Matthews.
So I'm back. Can you please describe your efforts in preparing to comply with the various components of the court-ordered 2018 joint plan? And again, this is a two-part question. The second part is, on page 29, you have a chart referencing the achievement gap in Indian River County as compared to the state. It states that parent satisfaction goal addresses the achievement gap. Can you talk to us a bit about how does a parent satisfaction goal address the data-based achievement gap?
I'm really sorry. I'm having a little bit of a hard time hearing. Could you repeat that question, please?
Sure, no problem. So could you please describe your efforts in preparing to comply with the various components of the court-ordered 2018 joint plan? And then a follow-up question to that is, on page 29 of your document, it discusses, there's a chart referencing the achievement gap in Indian River County as compared to the state. It states that the parent satisfaction goal addresses the achievement gap. How does a parent satisfaction goal address the data-based achievement gap?
The way I'm looking at the chart, I'm seeing the number of students that are doing the achievement gap in ELA, math, science, and social studies. So I understand that Indian River has high performance, so those matter. If we were a district, our performance would be very high. When we talk about parent satisfaction, we have a very strong system of parental involvement. And I could tell you things that we do, like we teach parents how to help the students with homework. We teach parents how to create a place, particularly with some of our lower income communities, so that the students could participate and study. And also, we are very open on our data chats with the parents. I could put it on Betty. Betty, I don't even know how many Zoom meetings you have conducted since the pandemic started. And how do you involve your parents in your community? Betty, can you take that? Ms. Reyes.
I'm here. So despite, as Judy was, Ms. Marty was just mentioning, despite the current situation with the pandemic, we've always had a very strong parental involvement since the inception of the school. However, of course, this past year has been somewhat trying, I believe, for all schools. But because we've always had such a strong parental involvement and component to our program, we had a very seamless transition from a brick and mortar setting to an actual virtual setting, so to speak, in terms of parental involvement. Parental involvement is key and has been key to the success of our school. It has been continuous even throughout the current situation. We meet with our parents on a bi-weekly basis where we have out of for example, 600 student body, we probably have about more than 90% of our parents who are continuously involved and who attend these meetings. Again, despite the current situation, they do attend Zoom meetings just to keep the parent homeschool connection going at all times. And this will continue to be one of the things that has been interesting about this situation this last year is that moving forward, we now know that we will be able to offer this opportunity to parents, whether it's in person, but now we offer them the flexibility to also attend many of our meetings and our informational meetings, and to continue to be involved, even if it's through a virtual modality. Aside from just having informational meetings with parents, of course, prior to the current situation, Matter Academy East has always strived to have parental involvement. And what I mean by parental involvement is in every aspect of the child's overall academic and social achievement throughout the school year. Parents are involved in anything from, aside from the typical open houses, to parent STEM night, to anything related to any clubs, sports, or activities that the students are involved in after school. They're there, and they've been there every step of the way and continue to do so, even with the current situation.
So if I may ask a follow-up question, could you, so going back to tying this back to the 2018 joint plan in Indian River County, the specific plan for our county, can you describe to me what a student's school day would look like in an effort to reduce those achievement gaps that you highlighted on page 29 with that chart?
Is that a question for me?
I think it's for all of us, but you are the winner at that because you are the winner of a blue ribbon on closing achievement gap. So there you go.
Yeah, I'm just asking you to describe that plan.
I'm not sure if you want to call it a winner, but in terms of the success, of course, in closing the achievement gap, and it is one of the reasons, as I said earlier, as to why we were a blue ribbon recipient the first time around, so to speak, is because we've been able to close the achievement gap year after year. One of the ways that we've been able, and we've been very successful in doing so, is through our extended school day. Our extended school day not only focuses on the student's academic, but as well as the a social enrichment for our students. So it embodies the student as a whole. It is not only about the academics, but it's also about the overall social well-being of the student as well.
Okay, thank you.
During this extended school day, by the way, the academics, we do focus on the academics in the core subject areas of reading, math, and science, which has afforded us the opportunity to close that achievement gap year after year.
I have a
And as
follow-up.
far as the 2018 plan goes that you're referencing, that's a district plan that we have to comply with, and we will.
But what is,
And I hope I've answered the question.
we have a follow-up question. So I know you say that you have to comply with it. What is your plan? Because we're looking for a plan that you've read, the joint plan, to make sure that you're in compliance. So that should be a part of your application.
So we will be recruiting African-American staff. We will be making sure that we train and mentor those teachers and that we follow the strategies that we mentioned earlier to recruit those teachers and embed those changes within our program. I think we touched on that in a few other questions that we answered. Correct me if I'm wrong. But it's about implementing that required curriculum and restorative practices.
And also, you mentioned in activities, sports, we had never had an issue. Students are invited to participate. That's one of the things that by us having such close relationship with parents, we ascertain that the parents are given a voice. And that's for all parents, African American, Hispanic, any other parent will be part of our meetings. We ask them what they want. We survey parents, we survey students, because our goal is to meet the need of all students. And our success has been with racial minorities. We obviously are a school of choice, and because of what we represent, they tend to choose our school because we have no history of discrimination of any way. From the beginning, Mater Academy had made an effort to have representation of different type of students. When we specifically recruit in certain neighborhoods by zip codes so that we could attract students to our schools, because we feel that every student benefits from participating in a diverse population. And when we bring role models, we're going to make sure that the role models are all not one race or one sex, that we are very equitable. In our career days, we specifically find diverse individuals that will represent the different areas to avoid the stereotypes.
We've learned that we have to specifically target recruitment of those students as well to make sure that we are culturally diverse and representative of our community, and we want to make sure that there are no barriers to education for all students. And so there would be specific strategies to target those students going to different areas in the community and other efforts to make sure that those students are included.
Okay, next question. On page 27 and 28, your grades 3 through 5 ELA and math goals reference respectively 62% and 67% of those students will meet, quote, meet high standards in ELA or math as evidenced by scoring proficient or higher on the statewide assessment. Explain how you plan to accomplish this, considering only 29% and 36% of the district students in grades 3 through 5 were, quote, proficient or higher in 1819. And also the follow-up science goal was set at 56%, but the district was only 24% in 1819 for proficient or higher.
I think that Betty's a great person to answer this because she actually had a school where the students in the surrounding community were doing quite poorly, and she was really able to overcome those odds. So Betty, could you share that, please?
As to how we're going to go about in achieving this, is that what the question is? Sorry, it's coming in and out.
That's okay.
Yes, I think the issue is just the goal.
He was asking how you were able to achieve those higher percentages in those subject areas, despite the fact that the surrounding community schools were not showing that type of data and were showing lower data?
Well, I think I just said it earlier. It's part not only as to how our curriculum is approached throughout the school day, but also part of our extended school day. Our extended school day does offer that academic enrichment in those core subject areas, and that is how we've been able to close the achievement gap year after year.
Would you like her to elaborate further?
No, I think the issue is where you have meet high standards in ELA as evidenced by scoring proficient or higher. What do you mean by that?
I can't hear.
I couldn't hear you.
I
Can
don't
you
know.
repeat that, please?
Meeting high standards in ELA as evidenced by scoring proficient or higher on the statewide assessment.
Are you asking what that question means or what that statement means as far as proficient or higher?
Yes, it's earning a 3 or above in
Correct.
the ability test.
I couldn't hear the question.
Okay, so
Proficiency,
level
Sorry
3
about that.
is satisfactory. And I'm just,
Yes.
that's where I think the confusion on my part is.
yes, proficiency would mean anywhere between a level 3 and above.
4.
That would be proficiency on a scale of 1 to 5 for Florida.
Yeah, we're definitely talking about scores 3, 4, and 5 for those grade levels in proficiency.
Oh, I'm sorry. I've got the next question too. I apologize. I was waiting for the next person to read, and it was me. Your application refers to annual measurable objectives, AMOs. The state no longer uses a system of accountability. Can you please explain how you plan on meeting the ESSA requirements of the state accountability system?
Can you repeat that, please?
Your application refers to annual measurable objectives, AMOs. The state no longer uses this system of accountability. Please explain how you plan on meeting the ESSA requirements of the state accountability system, which replaced the AMOs.
Well, one of the things that is in ESSA now is that we were going to be doing it, that it's going to be done by subgroups. And we always have been very careful on following our subgroups. But we definitely, whatever the state is measuring is what we're going to be doing. And that's why we're going to be reporting exactly like the state reports.
Okay, this question wraps back around to achievement gaps with students with disabilities. Can you explain specially designed instructional services and supports provided to close the gap achievement, the achievement gap, excuse me, for students with disabilities?
Yes. Okay. Lily, you are muted. Our plan totally, we use the tier system, the RTI. We're lucky to say that many of our students go to tier 1 and tier 2, and by the time they're going to get to tier 3, they no longer need to be considered a possibility of to be an ESC or to have an IEP. But Liliana will answer more carefully about this question, please.
Absolutely. Thank you for the question. So when we're looking at specially designed instruction, what we're looking at is we're looking at content, we're looking at methodology, we're looking at the setting, we're looking at how we're going to be adjusting that based on the needs of the students. So what the IEP drives how we're going to be specially designing the instruction. So we're going to be looking at those present levels of performance. We're going to be looking at those goals. We're going to be looking at the accommodations. And then based on that, that is how the special educator can then specially design and target that instruction, okay? So for an example might be working with students that are probably at maybe like a 3rd, 4th grade reading level, a 3rd or 4th grade level, but they're still at a kindergarten or 1st grade reading level. How do we specially design that instruction? Well, we're going to be looking at maybe using phonics, using visual, auditory, kinesthetic, tactile, maybe looking at multisensory, something like Orton Gillingham, because again, you're adjusting you're adjusting the content, you're adjusting the delivery of instruction, and that's how you're able to specially design it so that you can get over that barrier, and I wouldn't say the barrier, but the challenge of a disability, and then be able to make sure that the child is learning, progress monitor that, and then keep on going to the next step.
Before we begin with section 5, someone at Matter Academy, their phone is pinging continuously. So is there a way that you could check to make sure your phone is muted? Thank you. Moving on to section 5, student recruitment and enrollment. We will have Dr. Matthews, Mr. Fagan, Dr. Matthews, and Mr. Fagan.
Okay, so regarding student recruitment and the 2018 joint plan, the 2018 joint plan stipulates that the school district will allocate student populations at each school in proportion to the percentage distribution of minority students system-wide within a range of plus or minus 9%. Our current enrollment of Black students is 17%. How will you ensure the racial ethnic breakdown of your Black student population so that it will be in compliance with the order? And can you further explain the lottery process pertaining to enrollment preferences and enrollment limitations?
As you all know, charter schools are schools of choice. So we cannot design areas like the regular, when you work for the public school, we have a boundary, and that's where you drew your students, and the district will change the boundaries according to the codes, etc. At this point, what we will do is heavily recruit in different areas of the community so that we attract students of all races. We will specifically target areas. We will make sure that we could provide transportation if that is a barrier for students to attend. And when we start doing visits, some of the things that we do is we visit preschools, and we will visit preschools on designated areas to attract students of different races. We also have, through our grant, we have now the services community involvement specialists throughout the Matter schools that will be conducting a lot of activities to attract and to make the school, to people know about the school. One of the things we do, if we go to local churches in other areas, the traditional Black churches has been very opening to us, as we could see after services on either Wednesdays or Sundays. Whenever they congregate, we make them partners, we invite them to the school. We are a very open type of organization, and what we're going to do is heavily recruit what is needed.
In addition, I think that one of the things that sometimes can create a barrier, obviously Ms. Marty said that we have to go to those community centers and churches and neighborhoods, but oftentimes, it's really important as well. And we do this, we speak to those communities and say, if you feel like you can't attend, why can't you attend? What's your concern? What's your barrier? And we come up with strategies, as a board and a team to overcome that, even if it comes down to, taking computers with us and helping them to complete applications right then and there one-on-one with one of our team members, so that they have every opportunity to be a part of our school and they understand the benefit of doing that.
Okay, this question is regarding the lottery. Please define the random selection lottery process. Is it a manual process administered by staff, computer generated, internally or externally prepared?
Normally we use a computer generation random numbers, and what we have done in the past, first of all, the first few years, sometimes we don't need a lottery because we only conduct a lottery if we have more applicants than space. If we have enough space at the beginning, we would take everybody who applies without a lottery. We will be going to a lottery once the number of applicants exceed the capacity of a particular grade level. We have been very careful, and in the past we have invited accounting firms to be present while we do the lottery, and it's a totally transparent system because we know that it has to be transparent, and we want it to be transparent.
Can I ask a follow-up to that? And it pertains to the previous question as well. When it comes to the lottery of students, your application says that all applicants shall have an equal chance of being admitted. You're also saying that you're only going to do the lottery if it exceeds the capacity. Will you do the lottery with only those students who exceed, or with all students that have applied? So for example, if your capacity is 100 students and you have 110 apply, who is going to be in the lottery?
Ms. Martin,
Number one, if we have a deadline, and by March 1st, let's say it's a deadline, we have 110, we have to conduct the lottery to all 110, except once the school is operational, we do give preference to siblings and all the categories that the law allows to do. Siblings being a very important thing. So we may have 100 spaces, but we got 15 siblings. So we have 110 applicants, and then we will do the lottery for 85 spaces. Then we put the people on a waiting list, because not everybody that wins the lottery, if we want to call it that, is going to come. So we will put people on a waiting list, and you got a place on that waiting list. As somebody withdraws, that person will come in.
And then just to clarify a little bit further, we have priorities with siblings, staff, students, and military, but we also have enrollment periods. So we have a series of enrollment period, and if the number of seats exceed the amount of applicants, then at that point is when you have to have the lottery. But let's say you have your first enrollment period and you don't exceed, you don't have a waiting list, you accept all those students. And then you have another enrollment period. And then at that point, those that were accepted into the school have a secured spot. They're not going to be part of the lottery. It's only the second enrollment period because it exceeded the amount. So that's where we said we would be very strategic in our marketing efforts so that we can go to community churches to really recruit African American and make them part of our school and provide them the opportunity to enroll, be a part of the first enrollment period, and have that opportunity to be a part of Matter Academy.
So to follow up on that point, your enrollment periods, you're saying you might have multiple enrollment periods. Would that all be before the start of the school year?
Yes, it could be after too.
Thank you.
Okay, this is another ESE question. Please expand on how ESE and ESOL services are provided to students, in-house, contracted out. What is your process?
Thank you. So what we do is that we hire an ESC teacher, and when it comes time to the budget, I'm sure that you can discuss that. But based on the number of students that we have that require services, and we really don't go based on the number of students, but we go based on the services required on an IEP, because we might have, for example, 10 students that require extensive services in the sense of like, support facilitation 3 times a week, and so on. So we do a review of the services on the IEP, and then we create a schedule for the teacher of special ed, and then they go ahead and they implement the services. With ESOL, all of our teachers are ESOL endorsed. Those that are not, they get a waiver and they are actively working on their ESOL endorsement. Therefore, that's the way that they would be receiving their ESOL strategies via a teacher that is already certified in ESOL. For the student, that is ESC and ESOL, because we do have some of those situations as well. Then certainly we use the IEP as the mechanism to ensure that they're getting their ESOL strategy. So the IEP will always be that one document that will drive the instruction and will take into consideration that the student is learning English as a second language, but on top of that has an eligibility for a special education category, and therefore they would receive that instruction that way.
Can I ask a follow-up? You mentioned the ESC services. What about specialized services such as OT, PT, speech?
Yes, that's a wonderful question. Thank you for asking. Those are contracted. So any type of related service such as speech, OT, PT, which are the ones that we typically see amongst our schools, are contracted. We do have several schools that, for example, have a student that is deaf, hard of hearing. So therefore, we do contract with an itinerant deaf, hard of teacher that certified in deaf, hard of hearing. So it just depends basically what the needs are, but we, based on whatever that related service is, we contract out for that service. And that's why it's really important that when we get those IEPs, we do a real nice thorough review of what is on there to ensure that if there is any contracted service that we need to take care of, we do that at the beginning of the year so that those related services start from day one.
Explain your contingency plan if your enrollment is less than projections and how you would financially break even.
Okay. Normally, we are hiring as we get the students. We don't, I mean, if we are predicting 400 students and then we go the ratio, we're not going to hire all 400 teachers the first day. We will be hiring according to the need. How many are in kindergarten? How many are on the higher grades, etc. And we start adapting from the very beginning. When we presented the budget, we got 100%, a 75%, and a 50%. We also are very fortunate that in the case of this particular school, thanks to the grant, many of the things that normally would have to be paid from the operating account will be paid by the grant. So we're going to be able to open with all the educational material necessary. We could buy some of the furniture. We could be buying a lot of electronic equipment through the grant. So in this particular school, we are very fortunate to be able to open with a safety net, in this case, the replication grant.
Okay, the next section is Section 6, Management and Staffing. We'll have Mr. Bass, Dr. Soot, Mr. Meyer, and Dr. McMahon in this section.
In regards to the 2018 Joint Plan compliance, SDRC collects data each year from all schools about instructional staff hires in reference to that 2018 plan. Matter Academy will have to submit data on the number of African-American instructional hires each year. What is your plan to ensure hiring practices will be in compliance with that order?
We are going to follow the order, and like Shani Sadesky said before, we're going to try to recruit from the traditional Black colleges. We are going to be going to all kinds of fairs. We also have a lot of people that apply to our schools already, and we will be looking at trying to make sure that we have representation in the school of all the races, specifically African American. It'd be a very important part of our recruiting method.
I agree, it's going to be very important.
One of the things that we've done in the past as well is, we've not just looked within the local area, but we've actually done recruiting outside of the general area, whether it's statewide or whether it's nationally, and going to different conferences and types of places, recruitment fairs at various colleges, in Washington, D.C. and other places in order to recruit those teachers. And in addition, in certain cases, sometimes staff members from our other Matter schools will transfer specifically to work with those types of populations if they're reflective of our need there, and we feel that they can, deliver the service and represent what we're looking for in that school. We have that happen quite a bit, actually. So we feel confident that we're going to be able to meet that target. It will be a challenge, but we'll do it.
I have a question surrounding the joint plan as well. What is your plan to support African American instructional employees on staff? How will you assign mentors to these teachers to be in compliance with the order?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear, I heard the beginning, but then you say something about support and I really didn't understand the question. I couldn't hear well.
How will you assign mentors to those teachers in accordance with the joint plan?
Okay, every one of our teachers that are new teachers is assigned a mentor, but most of the mentors are assigned based on grade level, based on the qualification of the mentors, but we will make a big effort to, the first year is going to be difficult because everybody's going to be new at the school, and we're not going to know exactly who's going to come. But if we find some of our incoming teachers, we may find some African American that have 5-10 years of experience successfully elsewhere. We will try to assign them as mentors, not only for African Americans. Like in my old school when I was a principal, I got African American mentors that were phenomenal. And I had a teacher that was mentoring everybody, regardless of color, because she was one of the best teachers I ever had. She happened to be an African American individual, and our mentors are going to be the best in their field, regardless of race. I know we have to make an effort, but I would like to think that we are beyond that in our organization, and that we're looking for talent no matter where it comes.
But if I can also add, because of the grant, we're going to have the opportunity to have our mentor principal mentor and provide professional development to all staff, and we'll be able to align very strong academic teachers to mentor the teachers in this Matter Academy school, and it's going to be supported by the grant. So the funds are going to be there to ensure that every teacher in this school, regardless of race, will have a mentor so that they are successful for the betterment of the students that we're serving.
And I think as far as, pairing African American teachers with other African American teachers, that's something where being a part of a big network comes in. And that's a great thing about Matter Academy is that, we've all learned through the pandemic that technology can work wonders. And so not just having mentor teachers from other sites come to the school in order to be able to, meet that goal and to pair people up as we need to, but being able to use things like Zoom or Teams and technology to have that, contact anytime they need it as well would help, in addition to having mentors assigned at the actual school site.
I have a follow-up. I do have a follow-up question. What is your specific plan for supporting African American teachers in the school? What are the steps that you're going to take to support those teachers that is in compliance with our plan, our joint plan from 2018? Specific plan for support.
But we did explain it. We have a grant. It's a $58 million grant that Matter Academy has secured, a federal grant. This grant is for the specific reason to ensure that the opening of school is as successful as possible. We have a mentor principal that is going to be collaborating with the principal and will partner their teachers with the new Matter Academy teachers and provide them professional development, coaching cycles, resources, training to ensure that they have the support in their efforts. So it's
much like we would train another. I'm sorry.
Can you tell me about specific PD that you offer to your new teachers?
Absolutely. Betty, would you go and elaborate the professional development?
Yes. Also specify that we have a written plan for the support of new teachers that includes the assignment of a mentor, but it also includes, remember I mentioned before that we have a 2-day district-wide operation that we train all of our teachers. During those 2 days, we have a new teacher-specific strand on techniques to succeed with the lower grades, with the higher grades, specific training, and every new teacher will have the opportunity to participate in I just want to tell you, we had Ken Williams coming to our meetings. We did it last year, we did it and he's one of the best speakers, one of the best person that I could ever, he says that we're brothers from another mother, brother and sister, but I do believe in what he believes. In Spanish, we call it the pobre teacher's income, and in the African American, oh, poor little baby. No, we don't believe in that. We believe in achievement for everybody. So we expose not only the African American teachers, we need to expose other teachers to know that greatness is everywhere. That greatness is not the privilege of one race. We can all achieve and we can all be successful. But that is on those 2 days, during each period that people change classes, there were a specific trend for the very beginning teachers. And we have that to continue. That the mentors complete a portfolio during that first year of teacher, and they work consistently, the mentor to mentee, to make sure that that teacher doesn't fail. If the teacher fails, our school fails. We're only as good as our teachers are.
To answer your question, some of the specific things that we offer, we do iReady training, we do CRIS training, behavior management training such as CHAMPS and things like that. We do, Lily actually does many of our RTI and MTSS trainings. We help the teachers in terms of reading endorsements and making sure, especially at the elementary level, there's a huge emphasis on that now. We do unpacking the standards, differentiated instruction. We offer ESOL strategies training. We help them to make sure that they get all the required certifications and endorsements by regularly meeting with them and documenting their progress in attaining those. We do, the mentors do observations and provide feedback on a schedule. We have a professional development calendar for the year for not just those staff, but all staff. We have a new educator support system for those entering education for the first time and within their first 3 years of education that they can participate in as well. We do training for our RLI, our remote live instruction, so they know how to do synchronous instruction when they enter the classroom for the students learning from home, as well as those physically coming to the school site itself. Those are just some examples of how we will support those teachers.
We also make sure that they have relationship with the counselors at the different schools, with their special area teachers, so that everybody is integrated for the success of the child. But our role is to make sure that those teachers succeed. And I think we have a pretty track record. We have a very good retention of our African American teachers, just like we retain all the teachers. Luckily, I think that we're doing it well.
Excuse me, we have approximately 30 minutes, and we have quite a few more questions that need to be asked, and we ask that you, when you're answering the questions, to try to answer them specifically, and if we can minimize the number of people that's answering the question, that's going to help move us along. At this time, we have Mr. Myers.
Thank you. In a previous question from Ms. Becerra, you stated that all the teachers will be reading endorsed who are providing the intensive reading intervention to the students who have that substantial deficiency of reading. So given that the applicant is proposing to use a sponsor's reading plan, given the fact that that state statute goes into effect, it was actually went into effect this year, but the emergency order gave it an extension through June 30th, you'll have to hire, right? I mean, you mentioned that you're training them, but the obligation now begins on July 1st for them to be reading endorsed. So are you giving the assurance that all of the teachers that you hired will be fully reading endorsed as the school opens? Because you will not have the opportunity to train them up, given the fact that it goes into effect on July 1st.
Yes, because we have to meet the statute,
right.
And we're going to have to recruit until we find the highly qualified instructor that meets the reading requirement for that particular criteria of reading and students that in tier 3 instruction.
Got you. Just want to make sure that we know that they can't be out of field, that they must be, when you hire them, when you begin, that they need to be reading endorsed. That was my only question. Thank you.
We couldn't hear that. I don't know if you could repeat that, please.
I just wanted to be clear that as they are hired, as the school opened, that they were fully reading endorsed, that we know that there's no longer an opportunity to work towards that. So you cleared it up. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to Section 7, facilities. We have Mr. Fagan, Mr. Michaels, and Mr. Nick Westenberger, and Ms. Hollis.
What is the contingency plan if the cost of construction is higher than projected or the project timeline is delayed?
You're talking about the cost of the construction of the building?
Yes.
we don't necessarily gonna own the building. We probably will enter a lease agreement with the builders. And I am sure that we have people and our attorneys, Matter has its own attorney that helps the board, and every contract that we have for construction is very thoroughly analyzed to make sure that we're not paying more than what we're supposed to pay, but we have no choice but to, like if the cost goes up, we will have to do changes and do what we have to do to get the school open on time.
Okay. Hi, this is in regard to the operation of plant. In your staffing plan, you call for a custodian and a security guard. What are the duties of each, and will there be any overlap in assignments, and who will be responsible for the general maintenance of the building?
Okay, in many cases, depends on where we are located. In the majority of cases, we hire our own custodial staff at the same ratio that the local districts do. But in some cases, we do contracts with an outside vendor that will do the cleaning at night, that will come after school hours and do the cleaning, the deep cleaning. But even in the cases that we have a contract with a vendor, we still will have a maintenance person during the day, particularly now during COVID, to make sure those bathrooms are clean, the cafeteria is clean, that all the safety precautions are taking place. We got security, we follow all the guidelines, and that's why we have Mr. Tegel in this call, because he is our director of security, and we do local agent. We will have either a policeman, a sheriff person, or a licensed guard at each school, no matter what. In addition, when we call security, is individuals that they will check on the halls, at the doors of the bathrooms, etc., to maintain the proper procedures at the school.
Okay, just to be clear, so that the custodial staff during the day is also going to provide general maintenance for the building as well?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Hollis.
Do you have I think you had the next one.
Oh, sorry, I got the next one too. Please explain the budget allocation for electricity costs. It looks like you've based the costs per square foot off a similar size facility. What is the contingency for adjusting to annual fuel cost surcharges?
Alina, can you please? Ms. Chester?
Yeah, so we review, because it is a new building and we don't know exactly what the electricity is going to cost each year. As the bills start coming in the first few months, we get a better feel for it. And then, so the board approves an initial annual budget. And then if we notice that something is significantly different that requires board review and approval, then we'll bring it back to the board at the next board meeting. And if electricity is significantly different, then we would bring that to the board's attention and we would make adjustments as necessary for that.
Thank you.
Do you have a site identified yet?
Yes.
Okay. Your application reads that you are still looking for a site and your ESP is searching for it. So that's the reason for my question is where are you going and you already have one identified, correct?
Okay, and I think some of the people in the group in the school district are aware that a few years ago we looked for a site for one of our sister systems, which is at Somerset, and at this point, due to the need of the Matter Academy expansion plan, which is going very fast, and the fact that we have extra funding, we have been deciding that we may move into the Somerset site that have been already got a charter approved.
Okay, so then why does your application read as though you don't have a site identified?
Because there is a time between the time you write the application and today.
Okay. Does the Somerset group have a proposed lease with that? The location is Point West, correct?
Yes.
Okay, does the Somerset group already have a proposed lease with that landlord?
No.
I'm sorry?
The lease would be negotiated by our attorneys with the landlord.
So there's no proposed lease, you're just, you intend to go to that space. Is that what I'm understanding?
Correct. We are intending to go there. We're intending to locate in that site, provided that the lease is favorable to the school and to the network.
Okay.
I have a follow-up question. So if you're going to the Somerset, to the Point West site, that's a green site right now. Are you comfortable with your projected schedule? That's 18 months, and there's not a building out there right now, no infrastructure, nothing else.
We've already secured all of the approvals from the county on that site. We are ready to break ground on that site. So the matter timeline that they set forth in their application absolutely can be adhered to.
Okay.
Okay, moving on to transportation, we have Mrs. Idelette.
The plan indicates transportation will be provided within a reasonable distance. What is your defined distance limit, and how will you ensure the requirements of the 2018 joint plan are met in your transportation plan?
Yes. Normally, in most of our schools, we follow the requirement of the state, which is between 2 and 4 miles. But it is my understanding that in your plan, we go to 6 miles, and that's what we intend to do.
Okay, and as a follow-up, if you find that the African-American communities exceed that 6-mile limit, how will you adjust to meet the 2018 joint plan?
Well, that would be something that we would adjust. If we may have specific points where we collect students, not necessarily door to door, we may find a site that is convenient for those parents that may be 6 miles or 6.2 miles. We're not going to throw away, we're not going to eliminate a student because of half a mile.
Okay, my next question deals with your budget. A contracted cost of $275 per bus per day is noted in the budget for years 1 through 5 with a 0% utilization. Does the per bus per day cost indication confirm that you have in fact identified a vendor to manage your transportation needs? And are you not anticipating the need for school bus transportation?
I'm sorry, I couldn't understand the question of what have we not identified. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear what.
You have a $275 per day, per bus per day cost in your budget. However, for years 1 through 5, you show a 0% utilization. So it's two-part question. Have you in fact already identified a vendor to service your transportation needs? And with the 0% utilization being factored, are you not anticipating the need for school bus transportation?
Number one, we had not identified a vendor because what we are planning to do is purchase the buses as they're necessary. And we will then just identify somebody for maintenance. In many cases, we do the maintenance through the district themselves. We pay a fee to get our buses supervised by your transportation system. And we will, luckily, because of the grant, the cost of the buses is included as part of the replication grant.
My final question has to do with ESC. What is your specific plan to accommodate our your ESC students?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear. If anybody else heard the question, because I couldn't hear it.
What is your specific, I'm sorry, let me repeat it. What is your specific plan to accommodate the needs of your ESC students? What's your transportation plan for that?
Okay, that's based on the IEP. Lily?
Correct. Thank you, Ms. Marty. That's absolutely correct. If transportation is a related service and it is indicated on the IEP, then certainly it will be offered to a student with a disability.
Okay, next we have Section 9 food service by Mrs. Simonton.
Good afternoon. On looking on page 106 of your application for year one, salaries and benefits are listed for expected enrollment as well as for 75% enrollment. However, in the column for 50% enrollment, there are no figures listed for salaries and/or fringe benefits. If you were operating at 50% or more, 50% or less enrollment, will you be providing meals to those students?
We are going to provide meals even if we have 3 students. We are part of the National Lunch Program. Now, in schools that sometimes open small because of construction issues, we only open 1 or 2 grades, and if the cafeteria is not ready, we contract with an approved vendor through the school lunch program, and they will be providing us the food and are obviously have to be a certified meal through the school lunch program, and that's how we will distribute the food until we have all the equipment and everything ready to go. But we will provide student food from the first day in accordance with the National Lunch Program. Breakfast and lunch will be available.
Okay, my last question. By comparing staffing allocations on page 111 with the expected enrollment on cover page 2, there seems to be insufficient staffing to provide meals. For example, for 2 staff, you have allocated for 414 students, 1 staff for 75% of expected enrollment. There are 6 staff identified for each years 2, 3, 4, and 5. However, the expected student enrollment numbers increased in that duration by over 200 students. Would you need to increase staffing to compensate for the increased number of students?
If the students, I already deferred to Alina, but she's muted.
Hi. So I believe the plan was actually to contract with the district for food service, and so in that case, we may only really need 2 staff in addition to whatever the district is providing, just to ensure that there's extra support. Additionally, for the first year, I think you mentioned that if we were at 50% capacity, there wouldn't necessarily be a food service worker. In that case, we're only talking about less than 200 students. And typically our ratio and across the board all over Florida for cafeteria staff to student enrollment is about 150 students per every 1 cafeteria staff. So it really doesn't generate a food service worker at that really low enrollment rate. And we would have one of the other people on staff that would be able to provide support for the program in the small enrollment instance.
And this is Richard Breen. I also just wanted to add there, but you also have the cost of the lunch program. So if it's contracting with the district, it's basically a wash as far as the revenue and the expenditure. And then if we're using outside vendors, mainly when you're that small, they provide the services to the school. So the premise of the budget was to basically show and demonstrate a baseline budget that shows operating on, in effect, FTE funding. And as you are aware of now, Matter Academy has received significant grants that will support and supplement a lot of these programs, which we didn't include in the budget because a lot of times the grants are specific to the expenditures. But the way we look at the lunch program is it's basically revenue neutral. So you have the revenue coming in and then the expenses associated with it.
Can I ask one more question?
Yes.
Okay, so I noticed in the budget you were looking at a reimbursement rate of average, what was it, $2.94 approximately. But if the reimbursement rates are higher than that, are you basically suggesting that you're only going to reimburse for the $2.94? Are you submitting the claim, or would that be something that the school district or the vendor would be responsible for submitting the claim?
We set the reimbursement at the 341, which I believe is where it currently is. But again, that's the expense of the meals that you're looking at. So we would look to, in effect, break even with the lunch program. So the revenue, if we contract with the district, usually the district handles the recovery of those dollars and the expense associated with it. If we do with a vendor, there's similar ones that run the program. Or if we're doing it under the Matter brand, then you would have the reimbursement as per the school lunch program.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, next, Section 10, safety, school safety and security. We have Mr. Teske and Dr. Matthews.
Good afternoon. My first question is directed on page 43, dealing with compliance to Senate Bill 7026 and 7030 with insurance that your school will have a school safety officer on hand every day. Can you please explain your plan for contracting and meeting this requirement?
Absolutely, and we have William Tagle in the call, and he will express it better than me, but all of our schools are in compliance with the statute.
Can you explain the compliance? Can you specifically explain who is the school safety officer, monitor, or law enforcement?
Yes, yes, good afternoon. My name is William Tagle, and I'm the Director for Safety Security. We will continue to do what we have been doing with all the schools in Port St. Lucie. The Port St. Lucie Police Department has been great working with us. Ms. Raines has been phenomenal in creating an open communication with them, along with myself. Chief Holduk, who is with the Port St. Lucie, he's also, him and his staff has been working along with us. I hope I answer your question, but yes, it'll be 8 hours a day or 9 hours a day, depending how long the students are at the school.
Thank you. So we're still, I'm trying to get to, will you be contracting with a local law enforcement agency, a private entity, a guardian, or a safety monitor?
Well, we would like to first try to see if we can get a police officer or a sheriff's office wherever the school is located. If it is located with the city of Port St. Lucie and we have enough funding, we would love to stick with the law enforcement agency because that's the way we like to do it. If not, then we would get a guardian that is certified through the 144 hours. And also I would have to speak with Sheriff Mascara, who's there with the Port St. Lucie Sheriff's Office to advise them of the steps that we're taking if we do go the route of a guardian.
Well, we would like to contract with the Sheriff's Office in Indian River County.
Thank you. Yes, we're speaking for Indian River County. Our 5 existing charter schools do contract with the Indian River County Sheriff's Office for the Safe Schools Officer. So I am wondering, is that your intent as well?
Oh,
absolutely.
I apologize. I was under the impression that it was there, but absolutely. Well, one of my jobs after retiring from a deputy chief with Miami-Dade, one of the jobs that I do is I try to create that relationship between law enforcement and the school. As if for the people who know me, I'm law enforcement first. If I can try to get law enforcement in there, I would, and it would have to be on the jurisdiction that we're in. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. My next question deals with Alyssa's Law. Under Senate bill language, all of our schools, public and charter, in the state of Florida must be compliant with Alyssa's Law at the start of 21-22. Can you explain the technology and equipment that you're going to use, purchase, or contract with to be compliant with Alyssa's Law?
As you're aware, this is a very fluid situation because as of 2 weeks ago, they went from having 27 vendors down to 9 vendors. And now, as of last week, a couple of vendors have thrown in a wrench because they're saying, why did they choose the 9 and not the other ones? We are looking at several of them. I'm looking at what's going to be best for all of our schools. And also that will work with the police agency, with the PSAP, with the 911 call service. So that's something that it's fluid. It just happened last week with the vendors. So as soon as we get that, in fact, I would also want to tap in what is it you guys are leaning towards, because there's so many out there, and the ones that DOE Safe School Office has approved on.
Yes, thank you. We are a RAVE and Mutual Link district. So to answer your question there, my third and final question deals with how will your school monitor and screen daily access to your campus under the Jessica Lunsford Act? And how will you be compliant with identifying registered sexual predators and offenders? Specifically, what equipment and software will you be using?
We have in all of our schools, ever since I've come on board, we have a single point of entry where anybody who comes in, of course, will have to go in through a single point of entry. Once they are allowed in, buzzed in, then they have to provide a driver's license information, and we use a concierge pad, which is similar to a Raptor, similar to, I don't know what other company is out there, but we use that as far as run the individual, meaning the background, a quick background check before they are allowed in. They get a patch in before they go in there. They also are, the staff does get trained on if you do see someone that doesn't supposed to be there, advise them where the main office is at, and also greet them. That's something that I try, because a lot of times people do break through the security and are not greeted at there.
Is your intent to use Raptor as well at this office?
If that is something that we would, if the district is utilizing the Raptor, we would go and use Raptor as well.
Thank you. That's all I have.
The next question deals with school safety. What processes or structures will there be to address the comprehensive school threat assessment mandates?
Okay, all of our schools have threat assessment teams that have been totally trained and very active and meet frequently, and I'll let Willie expand on that.
Can you repeat the question one more time?
Sure. What processes or structures will there be to address the comprehensive school threat assessment mandates?
I'll take the first part of that, and then Willie can take the second part. I am a certified threat assessment trainer. I got trained by the state under Dewey Cornell's CSTAG. So I do go and train all of the Matter schools teams. Both Willie and I held trainings during the summer as well. We had to do it via Zoom, obviously, but we did hold trainings during the summer to ensure that all of the teams are in place. We create threat assessment plans with the schools. We make sure that they have the forms, that they work with the expectation of the district in regards to when things need to be notified. And I'll go ahead and let Willie take his part as well, because I know that he does things such as the required drills and trainings as well. Willie?
That's a comprehensive enough answer, and we are very short on time. So we will trust that you will follow the state statute on drills and move to the next section.
If I may interject just quickly, I know we set this for 2 hours, but there's no statutory or legal requirement to keep it. So as long as the applicant is available and we are, I think, we try to get as much of the information as we can.
Was that a question? I couldn't hear anything. I mean, I heard this.
Section 11, budget. We have Mr. Fagan.
Okay. Please explain how lease payments can be reduced based on enrollment. If a facility is leased or built for 414 students and 75% enroll, how is the fixed cost reduced or fulfilled?
Richard?
Yeah, it Matter, because of its strong financial position and its significant assets, has been able to negotiate lease with landlords where the lease is based on a per student. So that way you basically are moving a fixed cost to a variable cost, and it makes a very favorable situation for the school. So going forward, that's how the leases are negotiated by Matter.
Okay, thank you. Cash flow provided per attachment I is only for months leading up to the school opening. Please provide or explain the cash flow for your first year of and after during operation.
I believe you had one that was for the cash flow before the school opened. And then there is one in the budget there that's a budget monthly for the first full year of operations. So we could send that to you. It should have been in the application there.
Yes, if you could do that, I would appreciate that. Please clarify what year is in the chart on page 129. Is it referencing 2021 or 2022?
That would be opening in August of 2022.
Okay. All right, thank you. Please define what is the network that will provide this funding on page 129. Do they have the capacity to make such a loan or any documentation to support this and the line of credit?
Both, yes to both, and I take it to Richard, but the Matter Academy network of school is a pretty strong network, and when we need to, we have provided recoverable grants to school for the first year of operation. In this case, we may not have to, thanks to the replication grant. Richard or Alina, you got anything to add?
That's correct. So the board has significant financial assets. So between the network, which is at CMO, which is Matter Academy, as Ms. Marley just mentioned, and then also Matter has Matter Foundation, which also has significant assets to provide support to the schools.
Okay, thank you. Section 12.
Okay, Section 12, Financial Management and Oversight. We have Mr. Fagan and Mrs. Hollis.
Okay. Has the board ever had to implement a financial recovery plan for school as indicated on page 47? If yes, please explain.
I've been with Matter Academy since 2002, and we had never had to implement one.
Okay, thank you.
On page 50, you reference a PEO. What is that?
I'm sorry?
If it's in the financial section, it's probably a purchase order.
No, it's not PO, it's PEO. It says the PEO is selected through a competitive process where cost and scope of services of the various providers in this field are compared.
Could that refer to the auditors?
I'm asking you. The paragraph begins discussing the ESP and then says that.
It's the process that we follow to select the certified public accountants that do the annual audit of the schools.
Most importantly, net assets without donor restrictions. So this is sort of excluding the collective federal.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
I couldn't understand the question. I didn't hear it. Okay. Can you repeat that question, please?
My question to you is on page 50, under letter F. There's a paragraph discussing the services that the ESP provides. And then the next sentence says the PEO is selected through a competitive process where cost and scope of services of the various providers in this field are compared. My question is, what is a PEO? Is this something different?
I actually think that's a typo. I think they meant to say ESP.
Okay.
Yes.
That's a typo.
Thank you.
I apologize because I never seen that before, but it's a typo.
Neither had I. That's why I asked. Thank you.
Okay. On page 36 and page 111, the cost for health insurance per month is stated at $390 per month per employee. Based on the benefits option outlined on page 36, optically, this rate appears extremely low compared to the industry. Is the board contributing, and if yes, where and how much is that budgeted line item?
Well,
That amount is the portion that the school pays, and then the school's been able to negotiate some really attractive health insurance rates because in general, the population and census of the overall organization of all its hundreds of employees, it tends to be a younger, healthier population than normal, and that's what the school is currently contributing for health insurance.
All right, so the next question is rather lengthy, so I'm going to take my time reading it to you. For the replicated school East Charter, the unassigned ending fund balance has changed dramatically since 2016. A 3% decrease in 2017 compared to 2016, a 69% decrease in 2018 compared to 2017.
You're talking about Matter East Elementary, Alina? You manage that budget?
Okay, let me finish the question. Another 22% decrease in 2019 compared to 2018, and a 53% decrease in 2020 compared to 2019. My question is, from 2016 to 2020, the fund balance has decreased 3.8 million, or 88%. Can you provide details on these decreases?
This is referring to Matter East Elementary budget?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, there's been enrollment decline in that school, which is the primary reason for the fund balance reduction as well. They are the principal of that school, and Betty, you can speak to this, is also overseeing a middle high and has shared costs with that middle high that have grown over that time. So it's not entirely the elementary school that has been the source of the decline in net balance. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you.
I actually want to add that for 2021, there has been an increase in enrollment that is also happening in 21, 22. The school already have a wait list much higher than what the school could sustain. Because of the certain changes, a couple of years ago, we made some labs and some other areas of the school were transferred, were changed into conference rooms, into resource room, etc., which prohibit us to add students, even though the waiting list was there. But trying to provide a better program for students, we did structural changes to the facility that prevented us even having a high number of students on wait lists because of the quality of the school and because Betty wants to be perfection personified. And because she had the money, we went ahead with the changes that she wanted to make the school as good as it is.
That is correct. Let me just add, it has nothing to do with there not being a waiting list or a need for the actual program. There has not been a decline in enrollment because we have not been able to recruit or because we do not have the demand. It's simply been because we had to make changes to the existing building and its facilities in order to accommodate for certain programs, which has in essence prohibited us from adding any additional students to our program. So it's not because we're lacking demand or because we do not have the waiting list. The waiting list is absolutely there. So I believe, and Ms. Marty, you can add to this, we are in the process of obviously acquiring and looking for additional space in order to be able to grow our program because of the demands that we have and the student waiting list that we currently have.
Yes, the Matter Foundation have acquired public buildings and we're waiting for a third building that is in the middle so that we could proceed.
That's correct.
Yes, I would add, whenever the board sees trends like that, we always have a strategic planning meeting with the board, with the finance committee, and with the principal, and determine what the best next steps are. And so that's where, as Judy and Betty noted, we are now actually looking into buying land and figuring out, okay, this is what this program needs so that we can grow it and make it financially work as well. So the board is very much on top of making sure that there's a strategic plan for every school.
Absolutely.
Quick follow-up question. I thought I heard you make a reference that this school also has a middle high school component. It's something about, you made reference to something overseeing it?
No, okay. All of our schools try to do a feeder pattern that once the students complete the elementary, they go to the middle, they go to the high. We have a middle high, Matter East Middle and Matter East High, which, by the way, Matter East Middle, when Betty became like the supervisor of that principal, also became a blue ribbon school. But in order to be a Betty school, you had to be perfect. So we had to do a lot of stuff that added to the budget, and she, at this point, is going to be construction in that area. It's going to be a lot of modification, and all of that has impacted the elementary also, because some of the teachers are shared teachers.
Well, here's my question. Here's my question.
Yeah.
In these expenditures that caused the decline in the fund balance, are they related to middle and high school activities?
Sorry? I couldn't get the question. Can you please repeat the question?
The expenditures that caused the decline in the ending fund balance over the years. You made a reference that it had something to do with middle and high school. So that means there's middle and high school expenditures within those that caused that decline? No.
No, not at all. But in order to create better prepared students for the middle school, we added programs like the STEM program has been very costly. We had to do STEM labs. We added STEM things that prevented us from having classroom for classrooms.
That is
why the student numbers diminish. But we're mentioning the middle and the high because we try to get the better preparation, which I said before when somebody asked me, why does an elementary school talk about college preparation? Because we start very early and we equip our schools to do that.
If I can also add, we also had to use some of our existing classrooms, and Ms. Estrada can add to this as well, in order to accommodate for our ESC students and our ESC population. So that was, in essence, another reason why, again, we just did not have the space to bring additional students to the school site.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to addendum, the education service providers. We have Mr. Fagan. Page 8.
Yes, could you please explain the scope and the details of the grant that was received to build or operate the school? The application did not contain any information related to the grant, the amount, the scope, the school, the state, or where the funds would be allocated, and the timeline for this expenditure.
Okay, but the grant was not received by it's a grant received by Matter Inc. in order to increase the number of high-performing schools throughout the state and throughout the nation. We have a budget for each of the schools. It's like a general budget, and it will be based on providing things like those labs, that STEM lab, that extra things, making sure that every class has a Promethean or a clear touch board that we're trying to get to the one-to-one devices, and all those funds are part of the grant budget. Transportation, the buses, a lot of the things that occurred the first year of opening a school, including being able to hire a principal 10 months in advance, and also like a potential registrar and assistant to the principal. We also have funds allocated through the grant for the mentor principal to really get an incentive to those mentor principals so they could be going back and forth. We also have a grant staff that we will be constantly going there. We have a compliance officer. We have our special budget person. We help them with the purchasing to make sure that everything is TIPS approved or is under the correct bidding, etc. So it's an extra layer of infrastructure to help these schools to succeed. including my services.
Okay, thank you. Next question. Page 47 states the authorized signers on the checks are limited to the chairman, chair of the governing body, the president, the school principal, designee, ESP reps, and other as approved by the governing body. Then on page 48, it states the authorized signers on the school accounts are limited to specific individuals approved by the board of directors. Potential contradicting and confusing. Can you clarify that for me?
Okay, depending on the amount that is on those purchase orders, different people, but in all cases, this is a board person. If it's a high, it's a smaller, it could be by the principal of the school. If it also, we have a very clear manual of financial procedures that we follow in every one of our schools.
Thank you. Next question. The ESP charges a flat fee of $450 per FTE. At what date is this calculated, and is it ever adjusted during the year, and is it reported to DOE?
This is calculated based on the October FTE count and the February FTE count. It doesn't get charged. It's billed monthly, but it doesn't begin being billed until the October FTE, and then it's readjusted at the February FTE. So it's an average of those two funds. It is reported to the DOE in our financial statements as it is an expense that's part of those.
Thank you.
Okay, we have our last section, which are the attachments, and we have Mrs. Hollis and Mr. Fagan. And we have Mr. Meyer.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear. I couldn't get the question.
We're going to talk about the attachments now. The attachments to your application. In your oversight section and actually in the application, I don't see any reference to the governance, how the governing board will be constructed, how members are elected, removed, selected, if there are any term limits. Do you have that in place, and why was that not provided?
Okay, we have the bylaws of the board, and we have the election, every part of the board requirements, and all the board members take the necessary training to be effective board members, participate in meetings. Our principals, all report to the board meetings. Our board meetings are open to the public, and we follow every single guideline applicable in the state of Florida to our boards.
Okay, but you didn't, unless I missed, you did not provide us a copy of those bylaws, correct?
No, but we could.
Hi, I'm sorry. I just wanted to say one thing. I wanted to be sure that we are aware this is the HP high performing system replication application, and this document is different than the original replication document in that it does not ask for that whole governance piece and those additional attachments. However, if the district is requiring that or would like us to submit that, then we would do so. But just to be clear, that section 10 governance piece and those attachments that go along with that in the other model application are not part of this high-performing system application.
Sure, I'm aware of that. I just, in the general oversight section, I think we'd like to know how the board is going to operate for this school.
Sure, no, absolutely. And I think that, obviously we'd be certainly willing to send you any of that information. I just think that given the questions that were asked in the actual model and the page limit and things like that, those pieces just weren't something that fit into those specific questions. But like I said, we're happy to provide that for you.
That'd be great. And along that line, I note three items that were referenced in the application, but were not included and would have been nice to see since they were referenced. There's a strategic plan referenced on page 3. There are board policies and procedures manual referenced on page 49. And there's the conflict of interest policy referenced on page 52. I think since those were referenced and relied upon in the application, it would be helpful if we could see what those are.
Oh, absolutely. We can certainly, and I'm sorry, because I know one of them was the strategic plan, and I know that strategic plan is on Matter Academy Inc.'s website.
I know.
And then obviously
By the way, let me clarify. We just went through, we're going through a reaccreditation visit for Matter Academy Inc. All of our schools are accredited now by CONIA, and the 5-year reaccreditation starts on Monday. So we just took off the strategic planning because we just have a brand new one that was going to be adopted by the board tomorrow at the board meeting, and it will be the one that will be used because of COVID, et cetera, and many issues. We use our strategic plan, and our role is to, it's a dynamic, just like we used the word dynamic before. It has to be a dynamic document that adapts to the time and is based on innovate, achieve, and we will be providing it. If I had a longer demonstration, we'll talk about it on the interim, but I took off that slide because of time.
Sure. Again, you make
after tomorrow's board meeting.
Sure, you make reference to these, and we just wanted to see what you're referencing. Moving on to the sample contract with the ESP, which is attachment L to the application. Matter Academy is already under a contract with Academica, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so will this Matter Academy Vero Beach, is the intent for that to become part of an existing contract?
Yes.
Okay. I guess my question is, why wasn't that contract provided? What we have here is obviously clearly marked as sample. It has an effective date of 2017 through 2022, which is before this school will even open, and makes a lot of references to if this then that should be, I think, already identified if you're already under a contract.
We're not under a contract because we don't have a school yet.
Yeah. The schools are added to the contract and they are reviewed as the schools open.
So they are added to an existing contract, correct?
Correct.
So
unless it's the 2 years are up and we go into a new contract, because the board reviews the contract every 2 years with our lawyers.
Sure, but at this point, again, my question is, at this point, you are under a contract with Academica, and this school would be added to that contract. So it would have been more helpful to see that contract as opposed to this generic sample that may or may not be what you're already under. I understand renegotiation, but at this point, you are under a contract. If we approve this school, then you will be under that contract for that school.
The application request for a draft, and I think that's what we submitted. We submitted a draft, not the actual contract.
That's my point, is that we would like to see and evaluate the actual contract that has been, as you said, renegotiated over time, not a sample that does not address your school and perhaps doesn't address your situation.
Would it suffice if we show you a contract between Matter East Elementary and the current the ESP? Because Matter East Elementary is an existing school and it's on a contract.
And it's the school being replicated, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
That would probably be
application
more
asks
helpful.
for a draft, but we can show you more specifics if you would like that.
That would be helpful to be able to evaluate, yes. And my final question in this part is, what is Building Hope's role? I understand you have Academica as an ESP. What is Building Hope's role?
There's a need to modify. Prior to having the grant and prior to the bond issue, we have worked with Building Hope sometimes in the building of school and providing our funding, and I think Richard could expand on that.
Yeah, so we provide some of these consulting services for budget and finance. We work with the Lena and then the board on that. And then also, if for some reason the board needed additional funding for particular items, we've provided that to Matter in the past. So if they needed an FF&E or something like that, then it would be better to have a third party provide that. That's why we do it. And then with Building Hope, we provide that letter of support for Matter.
Okay. So is Building Hope providing any back office or budget or finance services? Is
No.
that through the ESP? Okay.
No.
Thank you.
Next question. Done, Katie?
I'm done, thank you.
On page 33 is the list of the enrollment preferences. Attachment D is the enrollment application. Explain how all the preferences will be addressed and complied with when this information is not captured on the application form. Page 33 and 86.
I'm looking at, you said page 32?
Page 33 and 86.
33? These are the regular admission procedures according to the statute of who are the students who will get preference during the life of the application, during the life of the charter. And the random lottery is what we explained before. Do you have any specific questions about these 2 pages that we could refer to?
No, look on page 33 for me.
The application that is there as the sample, it really has to be a basic application according to statute. We're limited in the amount of information that we're allowed to capture. Where we're strategic is in our recruitment strategies, in our marketing strategies, in honing and creating those enrollment periods so that we can really capture the group that we're trying to market the school to. But our enrollment application is very limited to what by statute we're allowed to capture in that application form.
Okay, that's fine. I was just on page 33, and underneath enrollment preferences, it says you will give enrollment preferences to the following populations. The last bullet says students who attend or are assigned to failing schools. I just figured that would be somewhere captured within your application process or during your lottery process. And I didn't see that specifically
Our
stated.
applications are also online, and it's usually the blurb that's on the website, and the preferences are put there. But the application itself, we have to be very limited to what we capture.
Okay, thank you. Oh, I also missed one. During the, in the book, we did not see any copies of current certificates of insurance covering all your coverages.
Sorry? Can you repeat
Sorry,
that?
we're having trouble hearing you. Can you repeat that, please?
In the documentation, there was no copies of your certificates of insurance proving you have sufficient liability and general liability and automobile and sexual predator and cyber, all the coverages.
So that's usually secured. So that's usually secured upon the school opening, but if you want to see a sample of that, of the replication school, that's something we can provide.
Great, thank you.
Right. Those aren't typically part of the application, but we can show you a sample.
Great, thank
We
you.
will always have those for all our schools.
Okay, my question is around attachment C. It states that the school will use the same core curriculum as the district. However, the district is currently in the adoption process and will be changing our curriculum in 2020, 21, and 22. Does the school still intend to procure and use the district adoption for the new curriculum?
Absolutely, that's the question that we have with the best standards before. As the curriculum changes, after state regulation changes and the district adoptions change, we will be changing accordingly, whatever is necessary to have in 2020, when we open the school in 2022. And it's going to be best standards, it's my opinion, in K-5.
But we can always, our innovation comes with supplementary resources and best practices that are shared with schools, that the replication school with Ms. Betty Riera that will be collaborating with the school and bringing a lot of innovative strategies, practices, and supplementary resources.
Thank you. One final that I skipped in my piece. How did you select your ESP?
The board selects the ESP every, I believe it's 2 years, but it's reviewed each year. Our board has an independent counsel that serves as a representative of the board. Items on the ESP contract are discussed during board meetings and adopted sometimes, depending on different times. And obviously, if the board is not satisfied, they will just solicit other organizations. However, the fact that we are a very, very large charter organization, we have very good services from a large ESP.
Thank you.
Okay. That concludes our questions. Do we have any more questions from the committee? Do we have any more questions? You can.
I think I'm on. Okay, just to recap, I think we've requested for you to send in, and I'm Heather Holden. I'm the one that we communicate with. The governance for your board members, the Matter Academy strategic plan, board policies and procedures manuals, conflict of interest policy, and then the current contract with Matter East, that's the replication school, which I believe would have the certificate of insurances with it that Mr. Fagan is requesting. So I don't know if somebody was taking down on your team those items, but I think those were the ones we were hoping to see.
I think there was a
Is there
budget item as well.
I know, we're going to provide it. Is there a possibility that just because of
I've got it. Ms.
There was one more.
I've got it.
There was one more.
There was also,
writing, we will make sure that we send it to you exactly as you want.
Okay, and I left off, Kim, will you clarify which budget item they were going to get for us?
Yes, you were going to forward the cash flow for the first year of operation.
Okay. The Application Review Committee will meet on April 8th at 1 p.m. in the Joanne Idolet Teacher Education Center to formulate a recommendation to the superintendent. The meeting will be live streamed and will not be interactive with Matter Academy representatives. On April 8th, each member of the Application Review Committee will vote to rate each section of the application, and as a group, vote to recommend to the superintendent to approve or deny the application. The board will then vote on the application at the school board meeting on April 27th, 2021. This meeting is adjourned at 3:27 p.m. Thank you.